Welcome back. Tonight, I'm taking you somewhere particular. A place tucked between cobblestone streets and gas lamps that still burn with actual flame. A refuge where time moves at the pace of turning pages, where rain speaks in paragraphs against old windows, and where you can finally set down everything you've been carrying. I know the day stretched long behind you. I know your shoulders hold more weight than they should, that your mind runs circles around itself, that the list never quite empties. But here, in this moment between waking and sleep, you have permission to release it all. Just for tonight, you can simply be. Find your way into comfort. Let your body sink into whatever holds you. Feel the weight of your head against the pillow, heavy and held. Notice your shoulders dropping, your jaw loosening, your hands opening where they rest. There's nowhere else to be, nothing that requires your attention. This night belongs to you, and I'll be here beside you, walking you through a story you might need to hear. We'll begin by releasing what you didn't know you were holding. Close your eyes if that feels right, or let them rest half open, unfocused, seeing without looking. Your head presses into the pillow. Feel that contact point. The cushion rises to meet your weight, supporting completely. You don't have to hold your head up anymore. It's being held. Now your shoulders. They've been climbing toward your ears all day, tensing against stress that doesn't need them tensed. Let them fall. Let gravity do its patient work. Breathe into the space where your shoulders meet your neck, and as you breathe out, feel those muscles softening like warm wax. Your arms lie beside you, heavy as stones worn smooth by river water. Your hands uncurl, fingers loosening their grip on invisible things. There's nothing to hold right now, nothing to grasp. Your chest rises and falls in its own rhythm. Your belly expands, contracts, doing the work your body knows how to do without instruction. Trust it. Your legs have carried you through miles of floors and sidewalks today. They can rest now. Feel them sinking, becoming dense, melting into the surface below. Your feet release. Toes spread and soften. Your whole body now rests completely, held by what's beneath you, safe, supported, still. And as you breathe, long and slow and easy, your mind can begin letting go too. Thoughts will come. They always do, but you don't need to follow them. Watch them pass like headlights moving across a bedroom wall. Present, then gone. Let me take you somewhere now. Somewhere that exists between rain and lamplight, between the day you had and the rest you need. Rain falls on the sleeping city, not the aggressive rain of summer storms or spring downpours. This is October rain, the kind that arrives without announcement and settles in for the night. Each drop touches the old cobblestones with a sound like whispered conversation, too quiet for individual words, but constant in its murmuring. The streets lie empty at this hour. Shops have locked their doors hours ago. Restaurants dimmed their signs. Even the late-night cafes, the ones that usually keep their lights burning until dawn, have turned dark, but not completely dark. Gas lamps still burn at intervals along the sidewalk, casting pools of amber light that make the whetstones gleam. The rain passes through these pools of light and becomes visible, each drop illuminated for the fraction of a second it takes to fall from street lamp height to pavement. Then the stone drinks it, and the drop disappears into the collective water flowing between the cracks. You walk this street. Your footsteps produce almost no sound. The rain has softened everything, muffled the usual sharp noises of heels on stone. There's just a wet whisper as your soul makes contact, lifts, makes contact again. Your hands stay in your coat pockets. The fabric there has grown warm from your body heat, creating small caves of comfort. You're not cold exactly, but the air holds that particular autumn coolness that makes you aware of your own warmth by contrast. The smell in the air does something to your nervous system that you can't quite name. Wet leaves decomposing in gutters. The leather of bindings, still holding the animal smell of hide beneath the oil and polish. Wood shelves, probably oak, probably here since the building was constructed. And underneath all of this, threading through it like melody, through harmony, the smell of something brewing. Coffee maybe, or tea. Something involving cinnamon, nutmeg, the warming spices of autumn. You stand just inside the door and your eyes adjust, learning to read this new environment. The shop goes back far deeper than the narrow frontage suggested. The main room where you stand is just the beginning. Beyond it, you can see other rooms, each visible through archways, each lit with the same amber lamps, each lined floor to ceiling with books. The shelves stand tall, so tall that the ones against the back wall require sliding ladders to reach the top. They're made of dark wood, polished by decades of hands running along edges, and packed tight with volumes of every size. Some shelves bow slightly in the middle from the accumulated weight of years and paper. The books themselves are beautiful in their variety. Some have leather spines with gold lettering, titles embossed deep enough that you could read them with your fingers. Others are cloth-bound in faded reds, blues, greens, the colors muted by time and touch. A few have no visible title at all, just blank spines that keep their contents secret until opened. Many show signs of age, corners bumped and worn, pages yellowed at the edges, small tears in the dust jackets of those that have them. The floor creaks beneath your feet, not a sharp crack, but a low groan, wood speaking in the voice of age. The boards are wide, probably original to the building, dark with old varnish and wearing smooth in the traffic paths between shelves. You hear the rain differently now. The shop's windows filter the sound, turn it into something less immediate. It becomes backdrop, ambience, the kind of white noise that doesn't intrude but fills the silence so the silence doesn't feel empty. And then you notice her. On the counter near the front, on a cushion that might once have been burgundy but has faded to something between pink and brown, a cat sleeps. She's grey with white patches, the grey dark enough to be called charcoal. Her body curls into itself perfectly, tail wrapped around to touch her nose, creating a circle of cat. Her eyes are closed. Her breathing moves her tiny ribcage in steady rhythm, up and down, visible even through her fur. One ear twitches slightly, responding to some sound in a dream. You find yourself smiling. There's something about seeing a sleeping animal that makes sleep itself seem possible, natural, the obvious thing to do when the body needs rest. Good evening. The voice comes from somewhere among the shelves. Not loud, not startling, just present, the way a voice should be in a bookshop after dark. You turn your head, between two tall bookcases, emerging from shadow into lamplight. A man walks toward you. He's old. His face carries the kind of lines that come from decades of expression, creases around his eyes that speak of smiling, furrows in his forehead that suggests concentration. His hair has gone completely white, not grey but true white like fresh paper, and he wears it slightly long so it touches his collar. Glasses perch on his nose, round frames that catch the lamplight and hide his eyes for a moment until he tilts his head and you can see them. Dark brown, warm, attentive. He wears a cardigan, thick wool, the colour of moss in deep forest, and old enough that the elbows show patches where someone took the time to repair rather than replace. Beneath it, a white shirt, open at the collar. Corduroy pants the color of rust. Slippers instead of shoes. He looks like someone who lives here, who belongs here, who might be part of the furniture if furniture could read books and smile. Wet night for wandering, he says. His voice has the texture of well-worn leather, supple and comfortable. He doesn't make it a question. He doesn't seem to want an answer. He's just acknowledging what both of you already know. It's raining, you're out in it, and now you're here. You nod. You might say something. The words don't matter. He seems to understand everything that needs understanding. Make yourself at home, he continues, already moving toward the back of the shop. I'm making something warm. You look like you could use it. He disappears through a doorway hung with a curtain of wooden beads. They click against each other as he passes through, a sound like small stones tumbling in a stream. Then he's gone. You're alone. Or as alone as you can be with a sleeping cat and 10,000 books. The rain continues its conversation with the windows. The lamps hold their pools of light steady, and you begin to move deeper into the shop. Walking between the bookcases feels like walking through a forest where the trees are made of words. You let your fingers trail along the spines as you pass. Each touch brings a different texture. Smooth leather, cool and slick. Rough cloth, catching slightly on your fingertips. Glossy dust jackets that whisper under contact. Bare boards on the oldest volumes, with grain visible under your fingers. Some books you recognize. Titles you've heard of. Authors whose names appear in high school curricula or bestseller lists. But most are unfamiliar. The Cartography of Forgotten Dreams. 17 Variations on Silence. The Luminous Properties of Distant Things. Books that sound like they were written for an audience of one. For the specific person who needs exactly those words at exactly the right moment. The organization system, if there is one, remains mysterious. Fiction doesn't seem separated from non-fiction. Old doesn't separate from new. Instead, there's a logic you can feel but not articulate, like the books have arranged themselves according to principles of resonance rather than alphabet. You move through the main room into the first of the adjoining chambers. This one is smaller, more intimate. 2 chairs face each other across a small table, with a lamp on the table throwing light on both seats. The walls here are completely covered in shelves, no space wasted. Books pack every inch, lying horizontally on top of vertical rows where the shelves are full, stacked in small towers on the floor where they've overflowed. A ladder leans against one wall, the kind that slides on a brass rail. The wood of its steps shows where in the centers where thousands of feet have climbed. You notice dust motes floating in the lamplight. They drift without hurry, rising and falling on air currents too subtle to feel. Each particle catches the light, becomes visible for a moment as a tiny golden spark, then floats back into shadow and disappears. The floorboards creak differently in this room. A higher pitch, a different rhythm of groans. The wood here might be pine instead of oak, softer, more talkative. You're about to move into the next room when you hear him returning. The proprietor emerges through the bead curtain carrying a wooden tray. On it, 2 cups release steam that curls up into the air, vapor made visible by lamplight. The cups are ceramic, mismatched, both showing chips at the rim from years of use. One is dark blue with stars, the other is cream-colored with flowers. He offers you the star cup. Hot chocolate, he says, with cinnamon and marshmallows, though I won't judge if you think that's too childish. You take the cup. Heat moves through the ceramic and into your palms immediately. Not burning, not uncomfortable, just present and warming. You lift it slightly and let the steam touch your face. The smell is rich. Cocoa, yes, but also vanilla, cinnamon, a hint of nutmeg, and underneath it all, real cream, the kind that comes from actual cows, not from a powder. Thank you. Your voice sounds different in this space. Quieter, more honest somehow. He nods once, a single dip of his head, and settles into one of the chairs. The sleeping cat hasn't moved. Her breathing continues its steady rhythm, completely undisturbed by your presence or his movements. People find this place when they need it, he says, more to his cup than to you. I've never quite understood how it works, but it does. Someone will walk past the shop for years without seeing it, and then one night, when they need somewhere to be, there it is. You take a sip. The chocolate coats your tongue, rich and sweet, but not cloying. The marshmallows have begun to melt, creating swirls of white that marble through the brown. Are you looking for something specific? He asks this while looking at his cat, not at you, which makes the question easier to answer. You hesitate, looking for something. Yes, no, maybe. You're looking for whatever it is that makes your chest feel less tight, that makes the endless loop of thoughts quiet down, that makes sleep possible instead of this thing you chase and fail to catch. I don't know, you say, because it's true. His face creases into a smile. Good, the best searches start there. Silence settles between you, but it doesn't feel awkward. It feels like the kind of quiet that exists between old friends, the kind where nobody needs to fill the space with unnecessary words. The rain has softened even more. Or maybe you've just grown so accustomed to it that your ears no longer mark it as separate sound. It's become part of the room's natural voice, no more noteworthy than your own breathing. He drinks from his cup. You drink from yours. The cat sleeps. The lamps burn steady. The books wait on their shelves. After a while, maybe a minute or maybe 5, he speaks again. There's a section in the back corner. I keep particular books there. Not particular because they're rare or valuable. Particular because they have a way of finding the right reader. He points with his cup toward the farthest room, the one you haven't yet explored. Go ahead, take your chocolate, spend as long as you like. If a book calls to you, you'll know. You look where he's pointing. Through 2 archways, past shelves and lamps and pools of shadow, you can just make out a chair. It looks old, well used, the kind of furniture that's molded itself to human shape over decades of bodies seeking comfort. Go on, he says gently. I'll be here. You walk toward the back of the shop, cup warming your hands, footsteps announcing your passage with their familiar creaks and groans. Through the first archway, through the second. The rooms grow progressively smaller, more intimate, as if the shop is gradually embracing you, drawing you into its most protected spaces. The final room is barely larger than a generous closet, but it doesn't feel cramped. It feels concentrated, essential, like someone distilled the entire shop down to its purest elements and placed them here. The chair sits against the back wall, angled slightly so whoever sits faces the room's entrance. It's upholstered in leather that was probably once a rich brown but has darkened to almost black, except where the arms and headrests show wear. There the leather has lightened to tan, polished smooth by oil from skin, from hair, from years of contact. A wool blanket drapes over one arm, thick weave, heavy, the color of oatmeal. It looks handmade, the kind of thing someone spent winter evenings creating, needles clicking in front of a fire. Next to the chair, a small table holds a candle in a brass holder. The candle burns with real flame, wax melting down the sides, creating pale rivers that harden as they cool. The flame doesn't flicker much. The air in this room is still, protected from drafts. And behind the chair, built into the wall, a bookcase. It's smaller than the others, maybe 4 feet wide and 6 feet tall. 5 shelves. And unlike the packed shelves in the other rooms, this one has space. The books here aren't jammed tight. They have room to breathe, gaps between them, space to be seen as individuals rather than part of a mass. You approach the chair and lower yourself into it. The leather receives your weight with a sound like a sigh. The cushions are soft but supportive, giving enough to embrace but not so much that you sink helplessly. The back rises high enough to support your head. The arms are exactly the right height for your elbows. You pull the blanket across your lap. The wool carries weight, real substance, and warmth that seems to have been stored in its fibers. It smells faintly of cedar and lavender, as if it's been kept in a chest with sachets between uses. Your cup rests on the small table, still steaming. The candle flame reflects in the dark surface of the chocolate, a tiny point of light floating there. And now you look at the bookcase. The volumes here are different. You sense this even before examining them closely. They're arranged with intention, placed with care. Some lean slightly against their neighbors, others stand straight. A few lie horizontal, stacked in groups of 2 or 3. The spines show variety in size and color. A tall, thin volume bound in midnight blue. A square book with a green cover, the color of spring leaves. Several leather-bound books in shades of brown and tan. One with a cover so dark it might be black or might be deepest burgundy, impossible to tell in the candlelight. You let your eyes move across them without forcing focus. You're waiting for something, though you don't know what. A pull, a sense of recognition, the feeling that one of these books is yours, at least for tonight. Your gaze drifts, returns, drifts again, and then you see it. Not at eye level, lower, on the second shelf from the bottom. A book that's somehow more visible than its neighbors, though nothing about it is particularly striking. The cover is blue-gray, the color of clouds before rain. Medium size, neither large nor small. The spine shows no title, no author name. Just that storm cloud color and a subtle design embossed into the cloth. A window with rain falling past it, droplets rendered as tiny indentations you can feel when your fingers touch the spine. You reach for it without deciding to reach. Your hand simply extends, fingers wrapping round the book's spine, drawing it from the shelf. It weighs more than expected. Not heavy, but substantial. Present, real in a way that makes you aware of its physicality. The way you're aware of holding a stone worn smooth by river water. You turn it over in your hands. The front cover repeats the embossed window design, larger this time. You can trace the window pane divisions with your fingertip. Feel the slight depression where rain droplets pattern across invisible glass. No title on the cover, no author, no publisher's mark, just the design and the blue-gray cloth. You open it. The first thing you notice is the paper. Not bright white, but cream, with a slight texture under your fingertips. The kind of paper that makes you want to touch it, that invites contact rather than just sight. The typeface is generous, designed for reading in low light, with serifs that guide your eye from letter to letter. The line spacing creates breathing room, preventing the text from feeling crowded. And there are illustrations, not on every page, but scattered throughout, unexpected gifts. They're done in ink. Delicate line work in shades of sepia and grey blue that echo the cover. Landscapes, interiors, windows with rain, chairs by fires. Small moments captured in careful detail. The first page has no foreword, No introduction, no explanation. The text simply begins, mid-thought, as if you're joining a conversation already in progress. There was a house on a hill where rain always seemed to fall with particular gentleness. Not a grand house or a beautiful one by any conventional measure, but it possessed that rare quality of making anyone who entered feel they'd arrived home, even if they'd never been there before. Something in your shoulders releases. You settle deeper into the chair, pull the blanket higher, and continue reading. The book describes this house with patience, taking time with each detail. The exterior paint, once white, has weathered to grey with undertones of blue, and in several places, particularly around the windows, the wood shows through where paint has flaked away. No one has repaired this, not from neglect, but from a sense that the weathering adds character, tells the truth about time passing. The windows are tall, old-fashioned double-hung, with real divided lights rather than false muntins. They rattle slightly when wind blows. The glass is original, wavy, full of small bubbles and imperfections that distort the view in interesting ways. Looking out through them, the world becomes slightly dreamlike, slightly impressionistic. Around the house, a garden grows without much intervention. Roses climb the porch railings, their blooms opening whenever they choose. Lavender borders the walkway, filling the air with scent when rain releases the oil from the leaves. Herbs grow in patches, rosemary, thyme, sage, their leaves tough and fragrant. Inside the house, one room in particular receives attention, a bedroom on the second floor. The ceiling slants where it meets the roofline, creating a cozy compression of space. A bed occupies the center, covered in quilts that layer color and pattern, faded florals beneath geometric designs beneath solid indigos. Pillows pile at the headboard, more than necessary, inviting you to arrange them however your body needs. In one corner, near the window that overlooks the valley, stands a chair. It might be the same chair you're sitting in now. The book doesn't say, but the description matches. Leather darkened by time, blanket draped over the arm, small table beside it holding candles and whatever book is currently being read. The story speaks of someone who lives in this house. No name given, no age, no gender specified. Just a person who has learned to live at a different pace than the world beyond the hill. They woke when light began filtering through the bedroom window, not because an alarm demanded it, but because the body had completed its rest and was ready to return to consciousness. The transition happened slowly, eyes opening, seeing the ceiling's familiar slope, hearing rain against glass, feeling the weight of quilts. No rushing, no urgency, just the gradual return to waking. You find your own breathing slowing as you read. Each sentence seems to have its own respiratory rhythm, inviting you to match your breath to its pace. The person in the house makes tea each morning, not quickly, not efficiently, but as a kind of meditation, filling the kettle, waiting for water to heat, choosing which tea from the small collection. Green tea from Japan in a tin with cherry blossoms. Black tea from India in a paper bag, stained brown from years of use. Herbal blend harvested from the garden last summer. The cup warms their hands. Steam rises. They carry it to the chair by the window. Outside, the valley spread below like a rumpled blanket, all hills and hollows filled with trees. When rain fell, as it so often did, fog gathered in the low places, filling them with white that slowly rose as the morning progressed. Watching this happen never grew old. Every morning, the same process. Every morning, completely new. The story continues, describing the hours that follow. Not with events, not with plot, but with the quality of presence. How the person sits and watches. How they read, sometimes for hours, losing themselves in someone else's words before returning to their own thoughts. How they prepare simple food, bread toasted dark, spread with butter and honey, soup made from whatever vegetables are in season, simmered until the kitchen fills with smell. Tea, always tea. They had learned something it takes most people a lifetime to understand. You read, if they understand it at all. That not being busy is not the same as being idle. That stillness is not stasis. That sitting in a chair and watching rain is doing something. Something important. Something necessary. The words settle into your chest, finding a home there, taking up residence like they were always meant to live inside you. You turn the page and find an illustration filling the entire sheet. A window seen from inside a room. Rain streams down the glass in vertical lines, distorting the view beyond. The interior of the room reflects faintly in the window, the corner of a chair, the glow of a lamp, the shadow of whoever sits inside. You touch the illustration with your fingertip. The paper has texture here, as if the artist pressed hard to create depth, to make the rain feel dimensional. Something in your chest continues releasing. The tightness that's been there for weeks, maybe months, maybe longer than you remember, begins unwinding like thread from a spool. The story moves into evening. The light outside changes, growing dimmer, turning grey-blue, then deep blue, then something close to black, though never quite complete darkness. In the country, even night holds some light, stars, moon, the ambient glow that comes from nowhere and everywhere at once. The person lights candles, lamps. The house fills with warm points of light, each creating its own circle of illumination that pushes back the dark just enough. Night had its own quality, the book says. During the day, you looked outward at the world. At night, with windows turned to mirrors by the darkness beyond them, you looked inward, saw your own reflection, saw the room holding you, became aware of being held. Dinner is simple, more tea. Maybe soup again, reheated from lunch, bread, cheese, an apple cut into slices. The meal takes place not at a table but in the chair by the window, plate balanced on lap, eating slowly, tasting each bite, then reading again, or not reading, sometimes just sitting, letting thoughts come and go like the rain outside, arriving, present for a while, then passing. They had learned not to fear their own thoughts, not to judge them or push them away or cling to them. Thoughts were weather, internal weather, sometimes sunny, sometimes stormy, mostly something in between. You didn't have to do anything with thoughts. You could just watch them pass through, the way you watched clouds move across the sky. You realize you've stopped reading and are simply holding the book, eyes unfocused, mind following its own patterns. The candle beside you has burned down another inch. The chocolate in your cup has cooled. The rain continues its conversation with the world beyond the bookshop. You return your attention to the page. The book's pace slows even further now, if such a thing is possible. Sentences stretch longer, meandering like a river that knows it will eventually reach the ocean and sees no reason to hurry. The person in the house prepares for sleep. This process receives as much attention as waking, as eating, as anything else. It's treated not as an interruption of life, but as an essential part of it. They wash their face with cool water, pat it dry with a towel worn soft from years of washing, brush their teeth, change into clothing meant for sleep. Cotton shirt, loose pants, both faded from countless cycles through the washing machine. The bedroom draws them back. The bed waits, quilts turned down, pillows arranged. But before getting into bed, they stand at the window for a moment. The rain continued falling on the valley below. It had been falling when they woke, and would still be falling when they woke again tomorrow. This constancy brought comfort. The world was larger than any individual worry. Rain fell, seasons changed, the earth turned. Some things continued regardless of human concern, and this was not frightening but freeing. They light one candle on the bedside table, turn off all the lamps. The room falls into near darkness, lit only by that single flame. Getting into bed is described in detail. The cool of sheets against skin that quickly warms. The weight of quilts settling. The adjustment of pillows until the head finds its perfect resting position. The body's gradual relaxation into the mattress beneath. They didn't fight, sleep, or chase it. They simply lay there, aware of their body, aware of their breathing, aware of the rain, and let sleep approach in its own time. The book speaks of thoughts that arise in this threshold space between waking and sleeping. Memories, mostly. Not traumatic or traumatic, just fragments. An afternoon, years ago, summer heat, the sound of a lawnmower in the distance, the smell of coffee in someone's kitchen, though whose kitchen has become unclear. A conversation whose words are forgotten, but whose feeling remains. Warmth, understanding, connection. A moment standing in a garden, hands in soil, completely absorbed in the simple act of planting. These memories arrived without invitation and departed without permission. They were visitors, not residents, and they realized they didn't have to do anything with them. Not analyze or understand or resolve. Just let them come. Let them be. Let them go. The text on the page begins to blur slightly. Not because your eyes are straining, but because your eyelids are growing heavy. You blink, refocus, continue reading. The person in the house thinks about sleep itself. How strange it is when you really consider it. The daily practice of lying down and surrendering consciousness, trusting that you'll return to yourself hours later. The vulnerability of it, the necessity of it. They had spent years fearing sleep, approaching it like an enemy that might ambush them with bad dreams or restlessness or the inability to fall at all. But gradually they'd learned to see it differently. Sleep was not an adversary, it was restoration, healing. The body's way of making sense of everything the day had brought. Filing memories, repairing cells, preparing for tomorrow. The book speaks of breathing, of how it changes as sleep approaches. The breaths growing deeper, longer. The pause between exhale and inhale extending. The way the body knows how to do this, has always known, if you stop interfering and let it work. The rain on the roof became a lullaby, each drop a note, thousands of notes playing simultaneously, creating a sound that wasn't music but was musical, rhythm without beat, pattern without repetition. The oldest sound humans know, the sound of water returning to earth, and it triggered something ancient in the nervous system that said, safe, home, rest. Your own eyes are heavy now. The candle flame wavers in your peripheral vision. The book's weight rests on your chest. Your hands hold it but loosely, without effort. The text continues, describing the person's descent into sleep. How consciousness doesn't switch off, but gradually fades, like daylight at dusk. Imperceptibly at first. And then you notice the room has changed, has dimmed, and you can't say exactly when it happened. Thoughts became less linear, more associative. A word would trigger an image. The image would dissolve into a feeling. The feeling would transform into a color. Logic loosened its grip. The rules that governed waking consciousness no longer applied here, at the border. The person in the house feels their body sinking deeper into the mattress. or maybe the mattress is rising to meet them. The distinction no longer matters. There's just the sensation of being held, supported, cradled by something solid and constant. They thought about all the people throughout history who had done this same thing, laid down in darkness, surrendered to sleep, trusted they would wake. Billions of humans across thousands of years, and each night the same ritual. This thought brought unexpected comfort. They were part of something vast and ancient and completely ordinary. The candle burns lower. The flame shrinks. Shadows in the room deepen and expand. And somewhere in the sound of rain, in the weight of quilts, in the gradual slowing of breath and heartbeat, sleep arrived. Not as intrusion, but as arrival, like coming home after a long journey, like setting down something heavy you'd been carrying, like exhaling after holding your breath without knowing you'd been holding it. The last paragraph on the page reads, "The house on the hill stood through the night. Rain continued falling. The valley below filled with darkness and fog. And inside, in the small bedroom under the slanted ceiling, a body rested, restored itself, healed what the day had worn, made ready for morning." This is what bodies do when we stop preventing them. This is what happens when we finally give ourselves permission to rest. You close the book slowly. Your hands rest on the cover for a long moment, feeling its texture, its temperature now matched to your own body heat. The embossed window and rain patterns press slightly into your palm. Something has shifted. Nothing dramatic, nothing you could point to and name, but the quality of the air feels different. Or maybe you feel different in the air. Lighter somehow. Looser, as if something that was knotted has untangled itself without your noticing. You look around the small room. The candle has burned down to a stub, wax pooled around the base of the holder. Your cup of chocolate sits empty except for a ring of residue around the bottom. The blanket across your lap holds your body's warmth. The bookcase watches with patient attention. The chair embraces you without effort. The rain continues its endless conversation with the roof, the windows, the world. You know you should stand, should return the book to its shelf, should leave this place and go wherever you're meant to go tonight. But for another few breaths, you simply sit, present, still, at peace in a way you haven't been for longer than you can remember. When you finally rise, your body protests only slightly. Muscles that had relaxed now asked to work again. You fold the blanket carefully and drape it back over the chair's arm exactly as you found it. You pick up the empty cup. You hold the book. Looking at the shelf, you try to remember which spot held this particular volume. Second shelf from the bottom, between the green book and the dark burgundy one. Yes, there. You slide it back into place. The book settles between its neighbors as if it never left, as if this gap had been waiting specifically for its return. You stand there for another moment, fingers still touching the book's spine. Then you turn and walk back through the rooms of the shop. The bookshop feels different now, or you feel different in it. The lamplight seems warmer. The shadows seem friendly rather than obscure. The thousands of books on their shelves seem less like inventory and more like sleeping animals, each curled into itself, resting until the right person comes to wake them. You pass through the second archway, through the first, back into the main room where you entered what feels like hours ago but might have been only one. The proprietor still sits in his chair near the front. His book lies closed on his lap now. His hands rest on its cover. The cat has shifted position, now stretched full length on her cushion, white belly exposed, paws extended in complete trust. He looks up as you approach. His eyes behind the round glasses are warm, knowing, but he asks no questions. Doesn't inquire about which book you read or what you thought of it. He simply nods once, acknowledging your return. Find what you needed. His voice is barely above a whisper, respecting the late hour, the quality of silence that settled over everything. You consider the question, did you find what you needed? You came in from the rain without knowing what you sought. You sat in a chair, read a book, drank chocolate, and somehow, in the space of those simple actions, something inside you remembered how to be quiet, how to be still, how to rest. Yes, you say. I think I did. Single quotes. He smiles. The lines around his eyes deepen. Good. The right books have a way of finding the right readers at the right time. I've learned to trust the process. You hold out the empty cup, but he waves it away. Leave it there. He gestures to a small side table. I'll tend to it. You set the cup down. It makes a soft sound against the wood. The cat's ear twitches, but she doesn't wake. Come back whenever you need, the proprietor says. The door's always here, even when you can't see it. Just walk these streets when you need to find it, and it'll appear. You nod. Understanding this is both invitation and truth. Some places exist on their own terms, revealing themselves when necessary, hiding when not. Thank you, you say, and the word carries weight it doesn't usually hold. You're thanking him not just for the chocolate or the chair or the book, but for this entire space, for the permission it granted, for the reminder that rest is not weakness but necessity. Safe travels, he responds. The rain's eased up, should be a gentle walk. You turn toward the door. Your hand finds the handle, brass worn smooth by countless hands before yours. You pull it open. The bell sounds overhead, that same silver tone, but softer now, more like a whisper than an announcement. You step through. Outside, the rain has indeed softened to something barely present. Not quite mist, not quite drizzle, just moisture suspended in air. It touches your face like cool silk, present but not insistent. The street looks different than when you entered. The same gas lamps still burn at their intervals, but their light seems cleaner somehow, as if the rain has washed the air and made everything more visible. The cobblestones gleam. Puddles reflect the amber light, turning the street into a field of small glowing pools. You pause on the threshold and glance back at the bookshop. Through the window, you can see the proprietor returning to his chair, settling in with his book. The cat has rolled onto her side. The lamps continue their steady burning. The shelves hold their thousands of stories. And as you watch, the old man reaches up and adjusts one of the lamps, dimming it slightly. Then another. The interior light begins to lower, not going dark but settling into night mode, preparing for the hours of deepest darkness when even bookshops need to rest. You turn away and begin walking. Your footsteps on the wet stones create rhythm. Not hurried, not slow. Just the natural pace of a body moving through space without strain or urgency. Your hands find your pockets again. The air fills your lungs, cool and clean, carrying the smell of wet stone in October and something else that might just be the smell of peace itself, if peace has a smell. The streets remain empty. All the good people of this city have found their way home, found their beds, found their rest. You're perhaps the last one out, the last one still wandering, but you don't feel lonely. You feel held by the night, embraced by the rain, accompanied by the lamplight that pools at regular intervals to mark your way. You pass shops with their dark windows. A bakery that will wake in a few hours to begin making bread. A flower shop with buckets of stems visible behind the glass, waiting for morning. A tailor's with a half-finished jacket on a form in the window, pins still holding the fabric in place. Each storefront is its own small world, paused now, resting, gathering energy for tomorrow's resumption. You feel kinship with them. You too are pausing, resting, gathering. The walk continues. Your legs know where to take you. Your body holds the map. You don't have to think about direction or destination. You can simply move and trust that you'll arrive where you need to be. The rain gradually becomes even lighter. By the time you've walked 3 blocks, it's stopped entirely. The clouds overhead thin, and between them, a few stars become visible. Not many. The city's light pollution dims most of them, but a few of the brightest push through. Steady points of light that have been burning for longer than cities have existed, longer than humans have walked upright, longer than anything you can comprehend. You look up at them as you walk. Tilt your head back, not worrying about stumbling because your feet know the way. The stars look back, indifferent but not hostile, just present, witnessing, being. How many people throughout history have looked up at these same stars? How many have walked through rain-clean streets late at night, carrying something similar to what you carry now? A sense of having found something important, even if you can't quite name what it is. The thought connects you to all of them, all the seekers, all the wanderers, all the people who needed to find a quiet place to remember how to breathe. You lower your gaze back to the street ahead. The buildings here are starting to look familiar. You're getting close now, close to wherever you're going. Home probably, bed, certainly, rest, finally. Another block, another turn. The streets grow narrower here, more residential. Lights glow in a few upper windows where insomniacs read or late shift workers just returned home. Most windows are dark, inhabitants already deep in dreams or dreamless sleep. You feel no envy. You're exactly where you need to be in this moment, on this street, in this body that carried you to the bookshop and now carries you home. And there it is, your building, your door, the specific entrance that leads to your specific space in this vast city of specific spaces. You climb the steps. They're familiar under your feet, each one with its particular depth and height that your muscles know without your mind needing to calculate. You reach your door. Key finds lock. The mechanism turns with a click that sounds like permission granted. Inside. Up the stairs if there are stairs, or down the hall if it's that kind of building. To your door. Your key again. Your lock. Your threshold. You step inside and close the door behind you. The space receives you the way spaces do when you've been gone for hours and return changed in ways too subtle to measure but too real to deny. Everything is exactly as you left it. Nothing has moved. But you're different, so the space is different in relation to you. You remove your coat, hang it wherever coats go. Your shoes come off. The floor feels solid under your socked feet, real, present. Holding you up without complaint, the way floors do, the way the earth does, constantly and without acknowledgement. You move through the rooms slowly. Kitchen, maybe, for a glass of water. The tap runs cool and clean. You drink. The water travels down your throat and you feel it, actually feel it, the way you rarely do. The small miracle of hydration, of the body receiving what it needs. Bathroom, the routine of preparing for sleep. Water on face. Brush against teeth. The small rituals that mark transition from day to night, from waking to sleeping, from doing to being, and then to the bedroom. It waits as bedrooms do. Patient, ready. The bed might not be made perfectly. Sheets might be rumpled from last night's sleep, but it doesn't matter. It will hold you regardless. It will support your rest without judgment of how you left it or what you bring to it. You dim the lights, or turn them off completely. Let darkness fill the space, broken only by whatever ambient light filters through windows, street lamp, moon, stars, the city's perpetual glow. You pull back the covers and slip between sheets. They're cool at first, then warm where your body makes contact. You adjust the pillow once, twice, until your head finds its proper resting position. The blankets settle over you. Their weight is good, grounding. The way the wool blanket in the bookshop was grounding. The way being held is grounding. You lie there, on your back or your side or your stomach, however your body arranges itself for sleep. You're still, quiet, present in this moment that exists between waking and sleeping, between today and tomorrow, between effort and surrender. And you think about the house on the hill from the book, the person who lived there, how they'd learned to let sleep come rather than fighting it or chasing it. You think about rain, how it falls without asking permission, without apologizing for falling, without wondering if it's falling correctly. It just falls, and that's enough. You think about the bookshop with its amber light and sleeping cat and patient proprietor who keeps books for people who need them. You think about walking through empty streets, rain on your shoulders, lamplight showing the way. But gradually, these thoughts become less linear, less connected. They start to drift, to dissolve, to transform into something that's not quite thought and not quite image, but somewhere between. Your breathing deepens without your directing it. Your muscles release without your commanding them. Your heartbeat slows to its resting rhythm. The room holds you. The bed supports you. The darkness embraces you. And somewhere in this confluence of letting go and being held, of surrender and support, of permission and peace, sleep begins to arrive. Not as something you do, but as something that happens to you, that happens through you, that happens because you've finally stopped preventing it. It comes like fog rolling into a valley, gradually, inevitably, filling the low places first, then rising, then covering everything in soft obscurity that's not frightening but comforting, not confusing but clarifying, because now you don't have to see, you don't have to know, you don't have to figure anything out, you just have to rest, and you do. Your consciousness doesn't switch off like a light. It fades like daylight at dusk. Present, 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 still there, almost gone, gone. Your body continues its work, heart beating, lungs breathing, blood flowing, cells repairing, memories sorting, dreams preparing, all the invisible labor that happens when you stop trying to be in charge. The night deepens around you, hours pass, the city sleeps, the stars wheel overhead, the earth turns, and you rest. Not because you've solved anything, not because you've figured anything out, not because tomorrow will be easier or different or better, but because this is what bodies do. This is what minds need. This is how humans have survived for millennia. By lying down in darkness and trusting they'll wake. By surrendering consciousness and trusting it will return. By resting and trusting that rest is not weakness, but the foundation of everything else. The bookshop still stands on its street, door still slightly ajar, lamps dimmed but burning, cat still sleeping, proprietor still reading or maybe sleeping himself in his chair, books still waiting on their shelves for whoever needs them next. The house on the hill from the story still stands too, though it exists only in pages, only in imagination, only in the space between reader and text. But that doesn't make it less real. Some of the truest things exist only in that space. Rain might be falling there now, or stars might be visible, or fog might be filling the valley below. The person who lives there might be sleeping in their bed under the slanted ceiling, or they might be sitting in a chair by the window, watching darkness, drinking tea, being present. It doesn't matter which. All of it is rest. All of it is peace. All of it is permission to simply be, without needing to be anything more. And you, in your bed, in your room, in your city, in your body, in this moment that stretches between today and tomorrow, you are also resting, also being, also held. The night continues its work. The darkness does what darkness does. The silence speaks its particular language that requires no translation. And sleep, when it's fully arrived, when consciousness has completely dissolved into the other place it goes. Sleep does what sleep has always done. Restores, heals, renews, makes ready for morning, for waking, for beginning again. But that's hours away still. Right now, there's only this, only rest, only the deep quiet of a body that's finally been given permission to stop, only the peace of a mind that's remembered it doesn't have to solve everything tonight, only the trust that morning will come, and when it does, you'll be ready. For now, sleep. Just sleep. The bookshop's lamps burn lower. The cat shifts in her dreams. The rain, if it's raining anywhere, falls without counting drops. And somewhere between the story you read and the sleep you found, between the house on the hill and the bed where you lie, between permission and peace, between night and whatever comes after, you rest. Finally, fully, completely. You rest.